January 26, 1945, the Colmar Pocket, France. The temperature is 0 degrees. The ground is frozen solid. A company of German soldiers, 250 men, supported by 6 heavy Tiger tanks, is advancing across a snow-covered field. Their target is a decimated American platoon that has been reduced to just 19 men. It is a massacre waiting to happen. The Americans are retreating. They have no anti-tank weapons. They have no hope. But one soldier does not retreat. One soldier stays behind. He is not a giant. He is not a muscular action hero. He is a small, pale kid who looks like he should be in high school. He climbs onto the burning hull of a tank destroyer, a ticking time bomb filled with fuel and ammunition. He grabs the .50 caliber machine gun, and he waits for the entire German army to come to him. His name is Audie Murphy, and he is about to become the most dangerous man in World War II. To understand the hero, you must understand the hunger. Audie Leon Murphy was born in 1925 in Kingston, Texas. He was the 7th of 12 children born to sharecroppers. Poor doesn't even begin to describe it. They were destitute. They lived in a shack with no electricity, no plumbing, and often no food. His father abandoned the family when Audie was a boy. His mother died when he was a teenager. Suddenly, Audie was the man of the house. He dropped out of school in the 5th grade to pick cotton for $1 a day. But $1 couldn't feed 11 siblings. So Audie learned a skill that would define his future. He learned to shoot. He hunted rabbits and squirrels for the dinner table. Neighbors said he was a prodigy. He never missed. He couldn't afford to miss. Bullets cost money. If he missed a shot, his brothers and sisters didn't eat that night. This was his sniper school. Hunger was his instructor. But physically, he was a runt. He was short. He was frail. He had a temper. But he looked like a stiff breeze could blow him over. 1941. Pearl Harbor. America went to war. And Audie Murphy wanted to fight. He was only 16 years old, but he tried to enlist anyway. First, he went to the Marines. He dreamed of the dress blues. He wanted to be tough. The Marine recruiter took one look at him, 5 feet 5 inches, 110 pounds, and laughed and said, "You're too small, son. You wouldn't last a week in boot camp." And so, Audie Murphy was rejected. He went to the Paratroopers. They needed strong men to handle the heavy chutes and the impact of landing. Audie was underweight. Rejected again. He went to the Navy. Maybe he could serve on a ship. This time was no better. Rejected again. Nobody wanted him. He was humiliated. But Audie was stubborn. He ate heavily, drank gallons of milk, tried to gain weight. Finally, just after his 17th birthday, his sister helped him falsify his birth date. He tried the army, infantry. The army, desperate for bodies, looked at the scrawny kid and shrugged. "Fine, we'll take you, but don't expect to carry a pack." Basic training was hell for Audie. He passed out from heat exhaustion. The other soldiers nicknamed him Baby. His drill sergeants felt sorry for him. They tried to transfer him to become a cook or a clerk. They wanted to save him from combat. They thought they were doing him a favor. But Audie was furious and said, "I didn't join the army to bake bread. I joined to fight." He insisted on staying in the infantry. And then they took him to the rifle range. The baby picked up his rifle, and just like back in Texas hunting squirrels, he didn't miss. He earned the marksman badge, then the expert badge. The drill sergeants stopped laughing. They realized this kid might be small, but he was lethal. In early 1943, Audie Murphy was shipped out to North Africa. The runt was going to war. July 1943. The invasion of Sicily. Audie Murphy landed with the 3rd Infantry Division. He was still a private. He was still small. But combat transforms men. In his first firefight, he encountered 2 Italian officers on horseback attempting to escape. Audie didn't hesitate. He raised his rifle. 2 shots, 2 kills. The baby had drawn blood. But the war in Italy was a nightmare of mountains, mud, and malaria. Audie contracted malaria almost immediately. He spent half his time shaking with fever, vomiting, too weak to stand. But every time the doctors tried to send him to the rear, he refused. He escaped the hospital tents to rejoin his unit. Why? Because his unit was dying. War is not about hating the enemy in front of you. It's about loving the men beside you. Audie formed a deep bond with his comrades, especially a soldier named Lat T. Tipton. They'd watch each other's backs. They survived the slaughter of Anzio together. Audie was promoted to sergeant, then staff sergeant. His officers realized that this quiet, baby-faced kid had a unique talent. He could read the battlefield like a chessboard, and he possessed a cold, calculated aggression that frightened even older soldiers. August 1944, the invasion of southern France. Audie's platoon was pinned down by a German machine gun nest on a hill, but the tragedy struck closer to home. His best friend, Lat T. Tipton, spotted a German soldier waving a white flag. Tipton stood up to accept the surrender. It was a trap. The German machine gun cut him down. Something snapped inside Audie Murphy. Witnesses said his eyes turned black. He didn't take cover. He didn't call for support. He grabbed a German machine gun he had captured earlier and charged. Alone, he ran straight up the hill, firing from the hip. He killed the machine gun crew that murdered his friend. Then he turned the gun on the other German positions. Single-handedly, he wiped out multiple machine gun nests and killed or wounded over a dozen German soldiers. When his men finally caught up to him, they found him standing over the bodies, shaking with rage and malaria fever. For this action, he received the Distinguished Service Cross. But he didn't care about the medal. He only cared that his friend was gone. This was the moment the boy died, and the legend was born. By late 1944, the 3rd Infantry Division had suffered massive casualties. Officers were dying so fast they couldn't be replaced. Audie Murphy was given a battlefield commission. He was now a 2nd lieutenant. He was 19 years old, commanding men twice his age, but nobody questioned him anymore. He had been shot in the hip. He had shrapnel in his legs. He was battling chronic malaria, yet he was always at the front. January 1945, the Colmar Pocket. This was the grave of the German army in France, and they were fighting like cornered rats. Audie's Company B, which should have had 200 men, was reduced to 19 effective soldiers. 19 men. And heading their way was the Wolf Division of the Wehrmacht. On January 26th, the temperature dropped to 0. Audie ordered his men to dig in near the woods of Holtzwihr. He knew an attack was coming. He didn't know it would be an avalanche. 2 p.m. The earth began to shake. Out of the woods emerged 6 German Tiger tanks. Behind them, 2 companies of elite infantry, over 250 men dressed in white snow camouflage. Audie looked at his 19 exhausted men. They had carbines, they had trench knives. Against tanks, they were dead men walking. The Germans opened fire. An American M10 tank destroyer nearby took a direct hit from an 88mm shell. The crew scrambled out, dead or dying. The tank caught fire. It was a death trap, a burning coffin full of gasoline and ammunition ready to explode. Audie knew he couldn't hold the position. He grabbed his radio. "Pull back, get into the woods, I'll cover you."
His men hesitated. They didn't want to leave their baby lieutenant behind, but Audie screamed at them to go. He stood alone on the frozen field, just him, his carbine, and the advancing German army. He fired his rifle until it ran dry. The Germans were closing in. 100 yards, 50 yards. And then, Audie did the unthinkable. Instead of running away, he ran towards the burning tank destroyer. Why? Because mounted on top of the turret was a .50 caliber machine gun, and it was still operational. Audie climbed onto the burning hull. The heat was intense. The metal was searing hot. Inside the tank, the ammunition was starting to cook off, popping like firecrackers. It could blow at any second. But Audie didn't care. He swung the heavy machine gun around, and he opened the gates of hell. The German infantry was stunned. They saw a burning tank. They thought it was a wreck. Suddenly, it was spitting death. Audie cut them down in rows. The .50 caliber bullets tore through the snow, through the trees, through the white camouflage. He was a one-man army. He was calling in artillery strikes on his own radio, holding the receiver in one hand and firing the machine gun with the other. "Artillery, drop it closer! Closer!" The artillery commander on the other end asked, "How close?" Audie replied, "Just hold the line on the smoke. I'm the smoke." For 1 hour, 1 full hour, he held them back. German soldiers tried to flank him. He mowed them down. Snipers tried to pick him off, but the smoke from the burning tank acted as a screen. He was a ghost in the fire. He was wounded in the leg. His uniform was soaked in blood. The heat was singeing his eyebrows, but he didn't stop firing until... click. Ammo out. Only then, dazed and deafened, did he climb down from the burning beast. He limped back to the woods. As he reached the tree line, the tank destroyer behind him finally exploded. He didn't even look back.
He walked back to his men. He refused medical evacuation. Instead, he looked at his platoon and said, "They're broken. Let's go get 'em." Inspired by their baby lieutenant, the 19 Americans counterattacked. They drove the Germans out of Holzwihr. Audie Murphy had single-handedly killed or wounded 50 German soldiers. He had stopped a tank assault. He had saved his company. For his indomitable courage, Audie Murphy was awarded the Medal of Honor. He was 19 years old. He had received every combat award for valor available from the U.S. Army, plus French and Belgian decorations. He was the most decorated American soldier of World War II. The boy who was too small to fight had become a giant. When the war ended, Audie Murphy returned to Texas. He was 20 years old, but his eyes looked 50. His picture was on the cover of Life magazine. America fell in love with the baby-faced killer. James Cagney, the famous actor, saw the photo and invited him to Hollywood. The sharecropper's son became a movie star. He starred in 44 films. He played cowboys. He played soldiers. Ironically, he even played himself in the movie adaptation of his autobiography, To Hell and Back. It was the highest-grossing film of 1955. Imagine the psychological toll. To reenact your own trauma. To watch your friends die all over again for a camera crew. Audie did it. He smiled for the posters, but when the cameras stopped rolling, the darkness crept in. Audie Murphy brought the war home with him. He suffered from what they called battle fatigue. Today we call it PTSD. He had terrible nightmares. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow. He suffered from insomnia and depression. He became addicted to sleeping pills just to close his eyes without seeing the faces of the men he killed and the friends he lost.
But true to his nature, Audie didn't hide. He broke the taboo. He spoke openly about his mental health struggles. He fought for the rights of Korean War and Vietnam War veterans to get better psychological care. He realized that the government was great at training men to kill, but terrible at teaching them how to live again. In a way, this was his bravest battle. Audie Murphy survived the German army. He survived malaria. He survived the burning tank. But he couldn't survive the peace. In 1971, he died in a plane crash in Virginia. He was only 45 years old. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His grave is the second most visited site, just after President John F. Kennedy. Look at his tombstone. It doesn't list his movies. It doesn't list his fame. It simply lists his name and his rank. Audie Murphy proved that courage has nothing to do with size. The Marines said he was too small. The Navy said he was too weak. But when the world was burning, the runt of Texas stood taller than them all. This is WW2 Story, where legends never die. If you salute Audie Murphy, hit that like button and tell us in the comments, what makes a true hero? The medals on his chest or the scars on his soul? Dismissed.